Hello and welcome to the Crepuscular Bronies, Discuss number 66. Today we have two guests, Silver Quill.
Greetings, mas bronies.
BronyMaster.
Hello.
As our guest. We have your host, Byter.
Blarg.
And your co-host, me. Hi guys, I'm the LooneyTurtle. Today we're going to be talking about Leap of Faith, the recent episode of MLP. Anyone want to start with their opening thoughts?
Well, I'd say it was kind of obvious that this would be Applejack's key episode, as this was the last Apple family related episode for the rest of the season, as the only two episodes that are not confirmed are most likely a two-part season finale. Everything else has been confirmed, so I don't know, I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, I mean, for me, I don't look ahead, I don't spoil myself, so it wasn't necessarily obvious to me going in blind that this was a key episode, and I'm not sure how much it being a key episode should affect our judgment of what the episode is. I mean, I have my own judgments of what it is, regardless of it being a key episode or how obvious that is.
Yeah.
It's
just an observation.
And I don't mind spoilers. Sometimes it helps me get my head around what's happening as the episode starts. But Equestria Daily actually warned people away, saying this clip from Entertainment Weekly is way more spoily than what they usually show, so watch out. And I heeded their warning, which I'm glad in retrospect.
Yeah.
Still, what were your guys' general opinion on the episode?
Well, first off, I just gave it a good, like, I would give it like a good, positive rating. It was an entertaining episode. Definitely not the best, but like, I mean, it wasn't.
It's in your good books.
A point. Yes.
Yeah. Silver Quill?
I thought the episode was a lot like Applejack herself. Very solid, very stable, a little more underplayed in terms of presentation. And while I thought it was good, it definitely falls in my good category, it's not going to be remembered as strongly when presented next to larger or more energetic episodes.
Looney?
Compared to the last Flim Flam Brothers appearance, I feel that it's kind of a lot more boring. Kind of.
Yeah.
Way. Did
you still enjoy the episode, or
It was an enjoyable episode. I just didn't like how the Flim Flam Brothers went from making an actual product that could make money, apple cider. It was a good business strategy, and then they just go straight to, it's an elixir, yeah. And they're just
it's a cure-all elixir. I mean, it's kind of pretty blatant.
Yeah, like something that actually delivers and something that doesn't. It's just a lie, straight up.
The Flim Flam Brothers sort of represent like business corporations. Like their last episode, they sort of displayed how companies will like to cut corners in order to spend less to get a profit. And in this time, they showed how companies will not necessarily give you a quality product, like it will have a lot of face value, but there won't be anything real behind it. Like, I don't know, there are certain electronics or other products that are designed to break just so that you can buy more of them.
I think the way the Flim Flam Brothers, like, the one thing that connects the two episodes is that they're supposed to be con men. The sort of the bad guys. In their original depiction in Super Cider Squeezy 6000, they weren't actually the bad guys. They weren't actually con men because their product frickin' worked. And
yeah, they were.
The product worked, but their intention was pretty clear from the get-go that they were so eager to take the Apple family's home and business. Their product was genuine, but they never intended to make the Apples genuine partners. I think that's the true villainy right there.
I don't know, like, they were offering a deal, but the whole negotiation process kind of fell through. I think a possible angle that one could have taken for them was that they are rather, they have rather inflated egos, or they are quick to pass judgment. Like, I like that they had a good product and really put on the show, but then when it came down to negotiating and actually, once they owned everything, what their response was, it was very pig-headed in a way. So, you know, they're both brilliant, but also their own brilliance is their own demise.
Yeah.
This episode, though, like, before there was an interesting kind of... I like the potential in Flim and Flam in the sense that if you explored them as in a different role, if they weren't just the antagonists, if we saw them in a different light, then they could fully become realized characters. For me, they don't necessarily represent business. They represent entrepreneurs. People going out there trying to do things and invent things and create businesses. You know, they're not necessarily representing, you know, a big corporate chain. They're representing themselves with their machine in their last depiction. And in this one, I don't know, they're still entrepreneurs, but they're the flat-out con men. You know, that angle just takes precedence.
And then there's their role in the IDW comics, where they've made just little guest appearances, but again, they've become con men there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think myself, this episode, yeah, I found it lackluster. I found it boring. And for the Flim Flam brothers, I had talked, when we were talking about recurring characters in the show, I always want to have them in a different role. That seeing Trixie as just coming in and being, you know, all showy and flashy and the antagonist, we've done that already twice now. You know, it's not expanding their character if you have them come again and do exactly the same thing. You need them to come in and do some different role. And I was hopeful, or at least I was always wanting the Flim Flam brothers to come back, but like just be either a background detail or, you know, something's gone on in their lives that will show us as them being entrepreneurs and having learned their way or something like that. What this episode is just they're flat out con man, and it just feels disappointing to me that these wonderfully deep characters that were alluded to in Super Size Squeezy 6000 are reduced to just bad guys.
There was another thing, actually a few that kind of was lacking in this episode. First off, the overall like relevation of Applejack. I mean, straight up, it was honesty is good, but I mean, we've learned that like a lot of times with Applejack already. I mean, that's her element. So just the fact that like it was as simple as that just fell a bit lacking.
I thought the moral gray of the episode was one of the biggest draws for me. Sorry. Applejack is presented by the Flim Flams with this dilemma. Your granny is doing great. She feels better. Are you really going to undermine her with the truth? And now suddenly Applejack has her family loyalty and her devotion to being honest are at odds. And it's real conflicts like that that really just draw me in. Like I say, Applejack has always been sort of a steady character, unlike some pony to watch over me. But seeing her struggle with herself, I really enjoyed, and seeing how that it wasn't just a chain of lies, one lie that just sort of grew and influenced others. So I actually enjoyed seeing her struggle and come to revelation. But at the same time, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, finish. You finish your point.
Silver Shill, which I'm going to call shenanigans on naming, I felt like he was supposed to be the male version of Coco Mel for this episode, and he just didn't leave as big an impression. I don't think the fandom even registered him as a character.
He hardly was. I mean, Coco wasn't really much of a character either, but she looked cute. And
Yes.
I don't know, like she also she's bossed around a lot. Things are happen to her that cause her to do stuff. Whereas with Silver Shiver, he's like when the first confrontation with him is they chase after him, and then he just sort of quivers there, going Coco had the person being bossy to her, and then when she turned, that made sense. With Silver Shiver, he sort of and then he just sort of watches the thing that happens and goes, "I'm reformed."
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the struggle, the struggle was definitely interesting, but like the revelation and like the turnover, all that, like within the last, I don't know, maybe it was 5 minutes or something. It just seemed like rushed. Like there wasn't enough to back that up. Like the struggle was an entirely different thing. Like that was enjoyable to watch because that is actually something that we haven't seen with Applejack really, but with the ending, that came up a bit rushed. Like there could have been a bit more essence in that.
I think though I don't agree that the core arc angle or moral in this thing was really actually that good. That the angle it took on Applejack is really as true as Silver Quill tries to depict it. I've always felt that they've always had a great difficulty with writing Applejack episodes, and they sort of have a very predisposition with writing for this show. That Applejack to me has always been this incredibly grounded character. She is very much at home with herself and her livelihood, and she is very much a comfort with her family and friends. She is someone who, often when something comes up, she just, because she's the element, the reason why we call her the element of honesty is that when something bad's happening or when something is happening, she just says it as it is, and you can generally take her word for it. And I kind of like that character. I've liked it in the original depiction of the show where, Applejack has always been the great straight man of the show, always the one in the background there to offer help to the others because she is always so grounded. And I like that in characters, them being mature and grown up and self-assured. Not all the characters need to be like Fluttershy or something where, their shyness is an obvious conflict. For Applejack, she's beaten all her bugbears. She doesn't have any problems to speak of. She just has to interact with the world around her. And I think that's the kind of the fundamental difficulty they've had with her episodes, is that they sort of need to just create a conflict out of thin air that she has to learn about. But Applejack is someone who doesn't need to learn things, and that's why we've got things like Some Pony to Look Over You. We need to make Applejack super overbearing because, she can't just be mildly overbearing and that's just who she is. We can't just have an Apple Family reunion her struggling really hard and making herself tired or something. She just has to try super, super duper hard. And in this one as well, I felt it didn't feel true to me, Applejack's arc, because this is beneath her. She is much more mature, developed, and self-assured than sort of, oh, should I tell a white lie or not? And that's sort of the thing that in this episode, the majority of Applejack's involvement is humming and hawing about what's going on. She's just always, I don't know. What should I do? That's not Applejack. Applejack should feel her gut and go with it, even if it's the wrong choice. She doesn't need to learn about white lies because she is already a character who's above that.
You go.
We lost Byter. Well,
yeah, sorry, I was just closing the door.
Well, my concern was saying that she doesn't have to learn anything. Is that if you remove a character who has if you make a character who has no conflict, they're not really a character at all. They're shining armor. And I guess I'm going to put in a dig at that whenever I can.
You can't make a story with a character that has no flaws.
It's not saying they have no flaws. It's saying they already recognize their flaws. Like a character who isn't good at maths doesn't necessarily need to overcome that. It's something they're already cognizant of, and that can still be a problem when dealing with real life situations. One doesn't always need to learn something to have a problem in life. I struggle really hard to do well in the upcoming maths test, and I didn't really necessarily go through a grand arc or conflict, it's just I worked really hard, and there's still a story in the struggle of someone overcoming the odds. One doesn't need to have personal change for them to overcome the odds.
Actually, but I find that's what makes a character endearing. Like, my favorite character is Fluttershy, and it's not just, oh, she's so cutesy. She is the one who struggles the most when faced with a challenge, so her payoff, when she succeeds, like in Hurricane Fluttershy, has that much greater an impact for me. With Applejack, I think her biggest flaw in a general sense is that she's sort of absolutist in her views. You know, you have to be totally honest, always work hard. They haven't really tackled that as much, which I think would be a good character arc for her.
I personally don't feel that I need to relate to other people via seeing their conflicts. For me, I can meet a new person, sit down with them, and just ask them, what are your hobbies, what are your interests? And the passion and interest and intrigue that they show in their given hobbies is enough for me to be endeared to them. I was like, oh, so this guy knows about Magic the Gathering, and he really enjoys it, and he plays it at a high level. It speaks hugely to him because he likes the gameplay and interplay against somebody else in a battle against imaginary monsters. You know, for me, I can relate to a person because they have grown and matured, and that they have something valuable due to their experience for me to reflect upon.
Well, it's interesting because I view the show as sort of a journey between the audience and the characters. We're experiencing them growing, which for a time that was Twilight's journey, but now apparently that journey is complete. So I guess looking at the other characters to see how they progress, because this show, Fluttershy will never stop being shy, Applejack will never stop being honest. You know, they've got certain set features, but sometimes it's just a little growth. And in a similar way, even just seeing Big Macintosh being a prankster, it's like, oh, that's new. It's getting to know him a little bit better.
A bit. I found that a bit, I don't know, Big Mac I felt was a bit too much full of the gimmicks, and yeah, that one prank at the beginning was more for the laughs than necessarily to grow his character. And I don't think necessarily strapping new things onto people's characters or forcing them through conflicts is always the best way to appreciate people. That the show has indeed, I will agree, a lot of the time the show always wants to teach its lesson, and the show always wants to have its arcs, its conflicts with its main characters. But if there's anything to say from the precedent set by Super Sidey Squeezy 6000, Applejack didn't actually learn anything that episode, because she didn't really have anything to learn. And guess what? I don't like the economics in that episode, but the rest worked. And I don't feel all the worst for it just because there was, they didn't go through enough personal revelation.
Maybe we need to factor in, maybe now's a good time to talk about the fact it is a key episode, which always seems to show the characters at their worst before it shows them at their best. So like you have to fall before you can rise, which with varying success. So I feel like there's sort of an elephant in the room for this.
Yeah, I mean, like Applejack learning about the mechanics of honesty, as I said, I feel that that's below her, and that this conflict is rather forced for her, and that, it's always sort of, we'll write the characters at the worsterest so that they can learn the things that they've apparently already been bestest at already. Which is kind of self-contradictory, if you ask me.
Guys, I feel like we're stealing the conversation from you guys.
Sorry, my mic was off. Well, this is the first time around that we've really seen this is the first season in which they're trying out something new, something different than what they've been doing. So that's why the key episodes have been having sort of varying success, and especially with certain characters, like for example, Applejack. I remember a video that Digimate sorry if referencing other videos isn't what you guys do, or if it is what you do. But I remember seeing a Digi video where he said that Honesty wouldn't have been the best one for Applejack because most of her episodes are more about her being depended on rather than her being honest, and
Yeah.
vice versa with Rainbow Dash, and I found that really intriguing because it made sense.
Yeah, I mean, the original attribution of the elements was just sort of retroactive. That Lauren needed to sort of make some kind of key angles for the show to pretend to take, at least in the first episode, and she just attributed them to them as they felt most appropriate at the time. The thing that you could write them into having a trial about. The difficulty is that the show has never got past that someone has made some rough arbitrary decisions at the beginning, and now that is coming all the way through to here, to season 4, with the key episodes where they still have to be learning about their element. Yeah, like Rarity as well is, she's generosity, but her originally it was contemplated to have her be about her element to be creativity. And, you know, I could say that there's a lot more to say about her episodes being about being creative than about being generous. It's just that, you know, in an episode at the very beginning where you're going through trials, it's a bit hard necessarily to make a trial where she's creative and that solves the problem in a clear kid show type way.
Well,
Make a hang glider out of branches.
the thing with her tail was kind of creative. I mean, in my opinion, and if
Yeah.
you remember, like any depiction of Rarity outside her respective episodes in the first in the first 2 seasons, honestly, if it wasn't her episode, she was anything but generous, in my opinion. Like, in my opinion, she was kind of vain in a few of them.
Well, she's materialistic, to be sure, and that's both a strength and a weakness. She shows her affections and feelings through gifts that she's made, usually very expensive. But then she's also really drawn to materials. And that's one of the things I admire about a lot of the characters, is when their strength is also their weakness. Applejack is very honest, very straightforward, but sometimes I do like that can put you in a uncomfortable position. Maybe you don't want to tell the truth. This is kind of the same thing she went through when Discord was messing with her head, showing her a truth so horrible she'd rather deny it. And
I just corrected. I think Caesar said it was inspiration, not creativity. My bad, I think.
well, they go hand in hand, to be sure.
Yeah.
So, but I hear what you're saying, that Applejack's a very stable character, and we don't want her IQ lower just for the sake of the story.
I would say a lot of the characters this episode were hit with a stupid stick so that the story could be told. And yeah, Applejack, generally speaking, in her singled out, focused episodes, is hit with the stupid stick. You know, I got to do all the work myself in Applebuck season. Oh, I need to earn all the money, and I won't go home until it's done. In the one with what's the episode called?
Applebuck season, Apple Family Reunion.
No,
the last roundup.
I think it's the last roundup. Yeah, where all the others go after her.
Yeah, last roundup.
Yeah, and then the being hit with a stupid stick for Some Pony to Look Over You, Apple Family Reunion, and this episode. Applejack has always had to be. They have to lower a high IQ so that she can go through a conflict. And that's always why I can't, you know, I don't really like Applejack when it's her focus episodes, but I do like it when she's a background character, when she's just that normal, grounded, mature Applejack who, you know, helps her friends in times of need. She does a brilliant job at that.
But I think one thing that shines through, even with the episodes that haven't portrayed her as well as people might like, she does take on she takes a lot on herself without anyone asking. Which is both, again, a strength and a weakness. She's dependable in a lot of episodes because she puts herself out there for them, but she takes on too much. And yeah, it can seem like the stupid stick, but I think that's actually a very believable character quirk at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a fine-tuning to make her just sort of hard on herself.
Yeah, I definitely buy into that because I've honestly felt that sometimes with like especially like school group projects like
Oh, I hate those.
yes like I don't know working in a group and sometimes hard, so like with me it's either I don't want to do a lot of work or I have to do a lot of work, and it was kind of confusing, so I buy into that very easily. So that does give a strength in Applejack for me because that's something that I can connect to.
Yeah, on the point of taking up much more than that you should really do, that, taking a lot onto your shoulders, is a characteristic that I could also describe in Rarity. Rarity often has a large amount of workload or a short amount of time, or lots of things that she's trying to do that put a huge amount of heavy burden on her. And for the most part, I would say that Rarity is always done with much more moderation in how she puts that weight on that. It feels much better than in comparison to the Applejack episodes. With Applejack, it still feels to me that the amount that she takes on or how she reacts to it feels that she's been hit with a stupid stick. The way the way she works with those problems. Whereas with Rarity, she doesn't feel as much hit by the stupid stick when she takes on all that work.
So, like in Suited for Success?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the big meltdown episode for her, but...
Yeah.
Maybe because... I think with Rarity, that's because it's an element in her story, but it's not always the central focus. Like with Suited for Success, she's taken on for doing all this with her friends, but then they introduce another element in that hoity-toity is coming to town. And so suddenly her reputation is on the line. So maybe the writers need to add more to an Applejack episode.
I think
she's taken on a lot, and this is happening.
Taking on a lot and with hoity-toity coming could be put under the umbrella of taking large stakes. And Applejack, it's sort of like, if you think Apple Family Reunion, there's not really that huge stakes. It's just Applejack believes it to be. With Suited for Success, the natural problems arise that the others keep having suggestions and they aren't fully satisfied with her original dresses. So she tries really, really hard to make them just right for them. And that makes sense to me. That is a credible story. With Applejack, though, it's, hey, the Apple Family Reunion's really important. I'm just going to go crazy and force everyone in the really stupid way to... have fun, or think about, with Sweetie Belle and all the times she's just doing ridiculous amount of baby cuddling. There's a clear, appreciable difference between those two stories, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Applejack. Looking back at this episode, there are ways to write it like a season 1 or 2 episode. Something with complexity and multiple sides and intrigue and depth. That, are at your fingertips. Phlegm and Flam are written as just, they're selling the all-in-one cure, which is just the most blatant, obvious, these guys are con men thing out there. I'm not sure you could really pick anything more cliche for a con man to sell. If they were selling just a tonic that helped minor ailments, it helped you from colds, it helped you from things that, are just small little illnesses, then, you can, they're trying to hide, it could be hidden.
Kind of stuff.
They could be hiding behind the placebo effect, and that there could actually be something to their product that they don't necessarily understand, but that they've seen some positive effects about. And the point being is that Applejack is trying to understand the Flim Flam brothers, that the Flim Flam brothers aren't just one-dimensional bad guys, that they are going out there trying to make ends meet, that they are entrepreneurs who are trying to make money, that they aren't horrible people. There's a two-sided conflict with that, with Applejack being very much against them, but in the end learning to empathize with them and trying to understand their story.
Okay, we see in season 1 there were a lot of villains or antagonists that were sympathetic. I mean, even Trixie, well, they told the audience, you need to not like this character, but then there were the Diamond Dogs, the dragon, pretty much anybody. I've never felt that this show really went for the complex, sympathetic villain. Usually the dual sympathies are between main characters, like Sisterhood Social.
Yeah.
That was my favorite for a mixed. I felt sorry for both sides.
Sisterhood Social, Green is Your Color. The show is sometimes best when, yeah, both sides are given equal standing, and one isn't necessarily the good guy or the bad guy. With this one, though, Applejack's the good guy who's just kind of uncertain about things, and the Flim Flam brothers are the certain bad guys who make a ton of cash and then run off with it.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of gone off on a tangent from this subject, but back to the thing about people getting the stupid stick. Applejack wasn't really the only one in this episode. I mean, a lot of people got hit with the stupid stick. I mean, first off, there were
regular sticks too.
First off, there were all the ponies who believed this in the first place. I mean, like,
yeah,
you said it was kind of obvious that this is BS, but then of course you got Granny Smith who got hit with the stupid stick as well. I mean, what kind of nut would dive 60 feet into a pie tin?
Yeah, that is pretty stupid. And yeah, I didn't like how they handled almost all the characters for the most part. I mean, Apple Bloom was kind of normal, so she wins Best Character award thus far in this episode for me. But yeah, Big Mac is just a one-word gimmick character. The crowd are for some for some unexplained reason all injured and walking somewhere, and then music plays, and then they all completely buy into this really obvious sham. And yeah, Granny Smith, I didn't like the way it handled her. That out of nowhere, suddenly she sort of just brings up, oh, I have this history with water, and then of course she drinks the thing, she has the placebo effect, and then she's just super hyper mega energy. Like, the angle the episode only takes on her is that everything is mental. Nothing. It doesn't really consider her age at all.
Well, truth be told, her ailments have always been sort of up-down. First episode of the series, she was hobbling, and then Applejack needs money to fix her hip.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, and she's doing great. I mean, what was it?
She's getting better with age.
Yeah.
She
Is
used
that
to
like
have
a fine wine?
She used to have a walking frame. She doesn't need that anymore.
Yeah, she's good. No, maybe Applejack raised enough money. I don't know.
And her hearing's getting a lot better. Before she couldn't. She found it really hard to hear people, and now she hears everyone perfectly. Even
they just got governmental help. Don't worry.
Obamacare.
Thanks, Obama. Family Appreciation Day. That's what I'm thinking of. I think she was doing flips in that one.
Yeah, it's an angle that I have described to other people about her and some other people in the show, where it's like, you have a character who's recognized as being, have a certain trait, and it's always funny or interesting to flip it to the inverse, to have them on the extremes. Like, we do have whole episodes built around this, like, kind of Lesson Zero kind of just turns the normal-ish Twilight into this crazy personal party of one has the happy Pinkie Pie go, mega kind of depressive. And, they do this, like, with Big Mac suddenly saying a lot of words, or in Season 4, all the times Rarity is wearing horrible costumes or making horrible costumes. There is kind of a chuckle and a laugh to be had from this normally good designer doing something absolutely awful and just thinking it's great. The problem is that they haven't done enough to establish the status quo. That Granny Smith nowadays is more just a hypochondriac, hyper all the time, than an old lady. That Rarity has terrible fashion sense more than she ever makes a good dress.
This season. Yeah.
And I think that's sort of this syndrome here. You take the character and you do them the inverse. Like, to rag on one of my annoyances before, and an angle I liked with Rarity, is that she was one who always liked to remain a sense of composure. That she didn't necessarily like flipping off the hook. That she wants to just act proper and normal most of the time, because that's the kind of person she likes to be. And when situations go crazy and when the pressure's under her, she does start she starts feeling that pressure and she starts to flip a little bit. The thing is
A
that
little bit
Rarity
is an
spends the
understatement.
majority of her time flipping. That, you know, we get stuff like the drama couch in Lesson Zero, just the worst possible thing! And that's really, you know, flipping the person without enough justification.
And then you got Rarity with the shrine in simple ways. I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, I wouldn't, but like, I mean, that does make her very dynamic. Like, I mean, that is something sort of like funny, but in a sense, if you try and put it into our world's context, it could be believable. Like, something who tries to maintain themselves with a very proper status quo could just break at any second. I believe that's like an existentialist, in which they hide a lot of like inner turmoil under like a very positive mask.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty with a conflict-centric approach to appreciating storytelling is the difficulty with the amount of stories you can tell that feel apt and the consistency of the characters. The thing with having a consistent character who always comes to you with an appreciable, grounded base of, you know, for me, this is the thing that Applejack is always this grounded character, someone who always who's self-assured about themselves, who has gone through most of their growing up already. And if you keep that, you have a consistent character, and that's something to build stories from. The difficulty with this show and its conflict-centric approach is that every episode is they need to bring up a new problem. A new problem suddenly has to arise, and it has to be a personal one that suddenly has to be learnt out of. And it's kind of, the way I described it is sort of, the characters have all these problems repressed in them, or at least the writers appreciate it that way. That, you know, people have talked about Applejack's parents, and the way they talk about it isn't, you know, just sort of, you know, in one sad moment during the show, Applejack with the family open up a picture of their family and shed a tear for those who have been lost in the battles or something, you know, lost in the past. It's sort of more, well, suddenly family is mentioned, and Applejack is suddenly really upset about not having her family anymore. Like, as if the problem has been repressed all this time. And I feel that's a lack of consistency there, that, you know, all this time Applejack has certainly never really shown any kind of concern. Like, they've never really mentioned their parents. They seem to be absolutely fine and dandy without them. You know, it's sad they've gone, but they've moved on. And now I feel it removes the consistency when suddenly it's a huge problem out of nowhere.
First, I think that's the struggle with the show's nature, that at one time we weren't even sure there'd be a season 2.
Yeah.
You know, here we are in season 4. And unlike larger scope stories, Avatar, as just an example, they had to map out everyone's growth over the course of a season, whereas this is a more episodic show.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, perhaps they did write themselves into a corner by making Applejack so mature that maybe if she had inherited the farm more recently, she's still growing into the responsibility. That might feel more natural.
Yeah.
As it is, I too view her as a very grounded character. I describe her as the launching pad for all the others to go off into the deep end, and then pull them back. But at the same time, if she never went through her own struggle, I think I'd start to lose interest in her, because I like seeing a character grow.
I think I can see a character struggle without necessarily needing to see them grow afterwards. Someone doesn't need... I mean, it could just be, for example, I don't know, I'm employed at a modern firm for a computer company, and that company goes bankrupt, and suddenly I'm without a job. There is a story to be told in how someone reacts to suddenly being without a job, that they have to make ends meet, that they have to put themselves on the line and try and find employment anywhere. Like, just suddenly, you know, I was working at a software company and now I'm working at the local McDonald's. You know, there's still something to people's characters and stories that doesn't necessarily need them to blatantly grow or tell the audience that they've grown. You know, the consequence of me working at the McDonald's after my job has gone down is subtle. You don't need me to learn a huge moral about the stridency of all the kids at McDonald's or something, you know? That's just... The difficulty of the show is it always likes having a huge, obvious lesson to be learned. And I think if we had subtler lessons and we were just happy with conflicts being conflicts, then we would have a much more consistent show, or a chance to feel more consistent over time.
But here's a question, though. As you're going to McDonald's to get a new job, or where you're looking for a job, I think that still offers insight into how a character behaves. And I agree that the in-your-face lesson... Oh, here's the palm again. No. The in-your-face lesson can be overdone. But oftentimes, my favorite parts aren't really have anything to do with the lesson proper, but just littler insights into the characters. Case in point, well, like Lesson 0, Twilight being so analytical, she has little to no imagination unless she's envisioning how things can go wrong. I think that's a great insight into a character. And like with Applejack, she's doing all this stuff because she takes so much upon herself, including protecting her granny's sense of self or pride, in a sense.
I think, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. I feel like I'm hijacking this conversation.
The thing is often, when we see stories, we're of course seeing them go through a conflict, but we conflate the conflict with the characters. And I think that is sometimes a fundamental difficulty people have when looking at the show. For me, I associate with the people. I want to empathize with the character. If I empathize with the character, then, you know, them struggling at McDonald's is a story to me. I mean, it's not necessarily a complete story, but it's something I am invested in, because I'm invested in the character. So me working at McDonald's isn't necessarily a huge character building story or says a huge amount about my character, but if you invested in who I am, then it is. And the approach of just conflicts cause us to be invested in people, and that the conflicts is what is interesting about people. I think it's the long or the wrong way of looking at people, because we empathize with people in a very different way than just seeing when there's a problem with them.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you don't always need to have a development to show a story. Like, this is just a quick analogy. Like, when you're playing a game of chess, if you get the pawn to the other side of the board, you can upgrade it to another piece. But once that piece is upgraded, you can move it back and forth along the board as many times as you want, but you don't get to upgrade it again. So you can still have a game of chess without upgrading your piece. So as long as there is something that challenges the archetype of that character, you'll have a story. And depending on how that is handled, it can still be very entertaining, or it could just straight flop. So it's unique for a children's show to do this, because the common portrayal of a children's show or a child-oriented family show is to see the character learn a very blatant lesson. And if this were written more exclusively for like teenagers, adults, then they would probably use more subtle lessons. But you got to remember, this is oriented by a very big company who wants to get their message to little girls to buy their toys. So they always want to have that lesson straightforward so that it will get their attention and be like, oh my gosh, that was a great lesson. Let's go buy some toys. So yeah, I mean, if this were like more adult-oriented, we would definitely see a lot more clever writing by these writers who have such good experiences in the past. I mean, because
it's often...
VHX has a great team of writers.
Yeah,
you can go now.
I'd say it's people often had a big, huge. There's a lot of discussion, of course, about the lessons or the letters or the diaries at the end of the episodes. Like, people are really keen at the end that the whole letter writing thing was gone, and then of course they brought back the diary, but the diary isn't always back. So the whole moral thing at the end was almost dropped, but not really. For me personally, I must admit, like, the show was appreciable in an immersion like the consistency and for immersion for the first 2 seasons or so, because even though there were always morals at the end, they weren't always. I didn't really care about the morals, to be frankly honest. I just enjoyed the stories, the characters, the consistency, the people, and I, at the time back then, always thought of the potential of the show to expand, the potential of the show to really build up the immersion of its characters and move forward was just always sort of really simple premises. If I just imagine, like, in the case of Applejack, Applejack goes and helps Fluttershy with her animals. There you go, you got an episode. Applejack goes and helps Twilight in the library. Well, there we go. You got yourselves an episode. Applejack, like I think you can say things about how Applejack treats animals and how she'll have to treat animals differently for Fluttershy. And with Twilight, it's having to appreciate the structure and order in a literary setting, or at least a library setting. I don't know if it's literary, but yeah, the point being is, at least originally with the show, because there wasn't really that many episodes where the characters were so off base that it felt really incongruous, that I felt there was a sense of consistency, and that I really loved the idea of just putting two characters in a room, and that's your episode. The show had that potential, and it still could have that potential. But because we are so conflict-driven in this show, because we are so obsessed about making them upset about losing their teddy bear, that we kind of run out of teddy bears to lose.
Well, I mean, I honestly, I'm like, if you all remember back to like the Magical Mystery Corps, like where they all got changed, that actually gave a good opportunity for such a dynamic, like for them to be under stress about something new that they haven't experienced before, something completely beyond their specific archetype, their personality. I honestly hope that they do something similar to that, either in the seasons ahead, or this is actually a bit of a personal thought. Once this series concludes, they could, because this is probably like one of Hasbro's biggest money drivers, they wouldn't just shut this down. So what they could do possibly in, like, say, a 4.5 or whatever is put them in a new setting, like I don't know, maybe bring them across the planet, like have them visit new places, like have that be a new driving element so that they could experience things that we have not seen, that they have not seen, something that nobody is familiar with, and just take the bull by the horns and go with it. I honestly think that would be incredibly interesting to watch.
Yeah, if you have a group of grounded characters, you can just imagine them placing them on a map and seeing how they react. And that's just, the story tells itself at that point. As long as your audience are invested in who these people are, then people will enjoy these people just being somewhere.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with that, because we had Daring Don't, where they went to an entirely new setting, put them in a room with their favorite author, and then I think a lot of people, including myself, weren't crazy about Rainbow in the second act of that. She started to fall apart.
When she sort of hit with the stupid stick, like...
Yeah. So it's not just putting them in a new setting, it's putting them in a new setting and keeping them in character.
Yeah, and I don't think she was sort of like... I don't like her extreme fangirling. That isn't a good character trait to have me have a sense of consistency with a girl. And her sort of the stupid thing with the hat, and then learning the lesson about putting someone on on the pedestal. Yeah, just preachy nonsense.
Turtle, I feel like we've shut you out of the conversation here.
I think we've gone a little bit off topic as well.
Yeah. We've gone off on this wonderful tangent of non-episode.
I think, yeah.
But it's all about Applejack, so, it sort of ties into what this episode invokes.
The difficulty I have with this episode, as I said, it's lackluster. That after watching it, it's kind of forgettable, and it doesn't really it doesn't strike at anything because all the characters are dumb. All the angles it takes are really kind of one-dimensional. Like, I really miss sort of the complexity of the show, and this episode doesn't have that.
Well, I mean, they start to go off on that, but then they just drop short. In my opinion, like, if this was given a longer time frame, the writers, I think, could have had a lot more fun with this. Like, have multiple ponies try out this elixir, see how it works, see them try and test it, and then like watch as like people start to realize this, and have Flim and Flam just start to go downhill, telling more lies, forcing Applejack to tell more lies, and then just watching it spiral out of control. That would have been a bit more interesting, in my opinion.
I think the show, I mean, that's not really... I think that's not a good argument, because the show has always been 22 minutes, and the show has done good episodes with, you know, slow eventual build-ups, or, you know, complex scenarios unfolding in the time allotted to them. It's not a matter of having enough time, it's making use of the time you've got now. And I think the way they wrote it is certainly not efficient.
Yeah, this was just like
yeah, I mean,
what if type thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of if the writers didn't look at this as just a kid show, there are so many things that shouldn't be there or should be written better. That
Yes.
I don't like. Okay, one example of a scene that doesn't need to be there is like Granny Smith swimming down the river lightheartedly, and them just like throwing down a tree, Applejack, Big Mac throwing his yoke, and them sort of all just spending time standing there before talking about, hey, Granny Smith, you're a bit more active than usual. Like, you know, all that time is just wasted with a kind of goofy action scene. You know, that can be cut for just Granny Smith feeling happy. She just walks in going, feel up and jibbity. There you are, you're done. You got the point across. You don't need the whole wasted time going down the river.
Yeah, something else that they could have pulled out of there was the like synchronized swimming show. I mean,
yeah,
it really didn't bring anything to the story. It was just like, we'll put this in there. I don't know what else to do.
yeah.
It show that she's back to swimming, at least that she's enjoying it. I mean,
because after swimming down the river, it's obvious that she isn't into swimming yet.
Yeah, she enjoys that. So one or the other, perhaps. But I feel like we're trying to eliminate anything that Granny did leading up to the high dive, and even then, high dive is rather questionable. But one thing I did...
Yeah, I was just, I wanted to, that was just part of my point, but yeah, I think for Granny, I didn't like the kind of forced water appreciating angle, and I think someone mentioned me in a comment that, hasn't she already been splashing about in the water before? Like, I can't remember what the episode was.
Has she?
Yeah.
I'm trying. Well, there was the Pinky Apple Pie where they all went off a waterfall. There's a high dive record for you.
Yeah, yeah. She was absolutely fine with going on a boat, and then she was absolutely cool when the whole boat broke at the bottom of a long dive. Yeah, kind of arbitrarily brought up.
Not to mention she didn't snap into when Applejack lassoed her from the top of the waterfall, or high dive.
No, and they have a
physics.
And they have a cordial conversation, just like, yeah, I didn't want you to die. Oh, that's okay. I can hear you perfectly. Yeah. I was saying that scenes could be cut, but also scenes could be edited to make them much more interesting. Like, the whole Flim Flam brothers and their tonic is a great mystery to be unveiled in this show. And, like, you know, they're chasing after the dude, and he just kind of quivers there, which is kind of disappointing. Like, you know, how do they interact with such a guy? They just sort of go, hey, what's going on? Things are happening. And the guy's just like, I don't mind that too much. But, like, when you go and meet the Flim Flam brothers and they don't even care about hiding it or anything, then, you know, that's kind of, yeah, they're the bad guys. If you just had the Flim Flam brothers, you know, not blatantly be a farce, as they are, then, you know, they're still like, their story matches up, but I still don't trust them. I'm going to take this tonic to Twilight, and she's going to test it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like, partial way through the episode, like, how are they gonna figure out what's in it? Oh, I bet they're gonna, like, go there, buy some, then take it to Twilight or something. Nope, they just follow this guy, and, here you go, it's just apple juice and beet leaves, nothing really important, but you're gonna keep quiet, aren't ya?
Yeah, they just show her right in front of her, just like, yeah, this is how we do it. Oh, thanks. See this mystery? You just chucked it away. Thanks.
It would be funny if they had used a mystery ingredient even they didn't understand, but it was convenient, so they went with it.
Yeah, that would have been interesting too.
Yeah, just the way they did it though, just by just showing her what it is and being sort of in your face about it, just like, and you're gonna have a moral issue now, aren't you? Okay, I will, I guess. It's just so they're the bad guys.
Sure,
she's the uncertain dipshit. Ta-da!
Yay!
Rather than with Twilight or her absence, I actually didn't miss the main six, and I think that might be holdover from It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, because there I felt like Fluttershy's story got a little undermined by we have to include these breezy main six. So here. Applejack is still tied to her family. I'd love to see an Applejack episode that wasn't about her farm or her family, but just her. But I was kind of glad that they kept it to just the family and not shoehorn the entire cast in.
Yeah. There wasn't a horrible Pinkie Pie moment, for example. Brilliant. Just coming in, sort of, oh look, juice, and then she just runs off. Yeah. Oh, but go ahead. I
kind of expected to see them at least attending the high dive or the swim meet.
Yeah.
But they're nowhere. I guess that's okay. But it's like, where is everybody?
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, no, not just where is everybody else, but where is everybody? Like, every scene with the Apple family is just sort of by a river or a pool or something. Just like, we never see them at the farm anymore in this episode. And they're just sort of walking along a path for some reason somewhere, and there's other injured ponies walking along the path for some reason to somewhere. Like, everything's just sort of floating in this nebulous vacuum, and I'd like to imagine that off camera the apples have been thrown off their farm and they're just living on the river, and that this is just a random group of injured ponies just walking about in the Flim Flam Brother tent in the middle of nowhere, and then they just walk to somewhere else in the middle of nowhere and there's just this diving thing and judges for no reason at all.
We're just envisioning the doctor from the hospital watching this parade of injured ponies going in the tent and just shedding a single tear. Why won't they come to my place?
Well, actually, though, like, if you look at all of the injured ponies, like, all of them are being treated. Like, if you break an arm, you don't, like, it's broken, it just looks horrible, but when someone's, put a cast over it, you've been treated. Or, lots of them have slings or crutches. Those people have been treated. They've gone to a doctor, a proper medical person, and, they bandaged them up. They've given them things so that they can walk. So, they have all left the hospital and want to take this extra thing because they're lazy.
But I just wonder, what happened? Why is everybody injured all of a sudden? I will blame Pinkie for this.
Oh, during the episode, I turned to Mage and said, because we asked that question as we were watching. It's like, she said, why are they all injured? And I was like, well, we'll wait and see. Hopefully they'll explain. And yeah, they didn't. Of course, they didn't explain. They're just all injured because the plot.
Wait for it.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
Wait for
Are those the credits?
Yeah.
Those are the credits, aren't they?
Actually,
I'm just going to say.
Yeah, 2/3 of the way in, I just said, maybe the reason why they're all injured is because, this universe has got a lot more slapsticky, a lot more physical, and this is the repercussions of such a painful universe.
There you go, the great thing. Although, I might be throwing us back onto the Applejack debate here, but one other thing I like about this episode is that it shows how much just Applejack's word has influence on others. That they trust her so much, they'll pretty much follow blindly. And I did like that her reputation actually took a hit, or at least it's implied. We don't really see any fallout, so by next episode they might all be back to trusting her completely.
The crowd is sort of like all the towns ponies in the show, like they've always been kind of stupid. You know, as soon as early as the Ticketmaster, all of them running after Twilight, as you know, like even last episode with the people at the after the play, they were all just like, "I like the dress."
Like,
Oh, what's that, Sweetie Belle? You're upset that we only like the dress? Social cue not understood. And yeah, this episode...
Nice enough not to say the play stunk.
Well,
sorry,
we don't
Sweetie,
even know if it did stink. I just thought they were complete idiots. Just sort of, dresses.
Given the 3 lines we heard, I was kind of expecting a stinker. I thought that was pretty well implied.
Possibly, I don't know. The 3 lines made no sense. Like, this is not something Sweetie Belle would write in the first place.
It's the pony equivalent of The Room.
Yeah, it just like...
Oh, hi, Mark. How's your sex life?
Yeah, I don't get that. It's so... It's just that the crowd, at least in that one, felt really stupid to me. And this is the same, you know, they all buy into the thing, and they all add on the pressure, a bit like the zombies in Twilight Time. You know, they hear roughly that someone said something, so therefore they all just say all the stronger that this person says something. You know, it's just ham-handed attempts to try and make Applejack's lie even more important. Because, you know, Applejack, all she ever did was sort of like, people said, "This is good, Applejack, isn't it?" And she goes, "Yeah, kinda, I guess. I mean, Granny Smith's better," which isn't wrong. And they're just like, "Applejack loves this product! Everyone buy it!" They're just such utter cretins, and I don't know, I mean, I get the point for the story. It's just, I don't respect such ham-handed a way to tell the story through stupid characters, you know, in this manner.
I'm more focusing on how it shows Applejack's role in the community. That people really do believe in her and trust her, just like in Applebuck season. You know, they know she's the go-to pony. So it is heavy-handed, and the crowd has always been, well, sing a song and they'll follow you to hell and back. But
yeah, it's just it's not exactly the place. Like, you know, a place in the community. It's sort of it means a lot more when that community actually is like intelligent. Like, you know, if you're the king amongst a bunch of leprous retards, then that's not exactly going to get you much respect. It's not going to say that much. Well done, Applejack. You aren't brain dead.
Were you intending to reference Lion King?
Sure. Yeah, I just... Applejack is the least brain dead person there, and she's still pretty dumb. Well done. You've won the Stupid Olympics. You get a free lick off a window.
And hey, you get to see your great-grandfather. Good for you. He was actually in the background. Totally not lying here. There's all manner of screenshots showing the various injured ponies, and the Applejack's great-grandfather, guy with the straw hat and overalls, is in the background. They reused that character model.
Yeah. There were a few apples I recognized, or people or similar models I've seen in the background running around. One thing we haven't touched on, partly because I don't know, I just really didn't care for it, but what did you guys think of the song?
Same impact as the Super Sweetie... I can't even say that tongue twister right now. Super Sweetie Squeeze Size 6000. It didn't jump out at me. I haven't listened to it again, and I'm like, yeah, it was sort of a lesser version of the Super Speedy.
Yeah.
Exposition.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Super Cider Squeezy 6000 song was it had like its place in the universe and its place as for the story were perfectly matched, in the sense that the song it slowly builds up. You know, that it sort of it starts slow. And it builds up, them talking about who they are and getting you invigorated. And then, you know, they have the chorus come in and, you know, it goes full-blown insanity. It builds up. It's getting you invigorated. It gets the crowd invigorated. You know, the job it does to the audience is the same it does to the crowd, the imaginary audience. This one, though, it sort of... It doesn't have that same slope. It doesn't feel the same to me. That it sort of starts off really kind of just them talking about germs, which doesn't really get me invigorated, really. Talking about germs isn't a great kind of passion sparker. And it sort of it starts really kind of boring, and then just suddenly jumps to complete, you know, chorus, and then just goes top level all the way. So it doesn't really get me invigorated. It's just sort of, they're talking. Oh, they're singing. Oh, okay.
Something about that, sort of going, again, off from that presentation, just like, their setup wasn't that smart either. Like, going back to Silver Shell, I wanted to say this earlier, but I forgot. Why would he limit himself to just a wig and like a beard or a hat or something like the entire reason that he was caught was because he was in the same outfit he was when the apples were there. Like
last night.
Why just limit yourself to a pair of overalls? Why not get a completely different set of clothes? I don't know, maybe even like a fake cutie mark sticker or something. Like, make it as subtle as possible that this is the same guy.
Yeah, and
like if you're gonna have a plant, be smart with it.
Yeah, or they really needed just more plants. But of course, one seemed to do because the townsfolk were so stupid. But one thing that we thought when we first watched, you know, him go up on stage, he thought he's got the walking things, and I was like, okay, if this cures everything, right? Okay, he's gonna throw away the things, and his eyesight's gonna be cured, right? Right?
Yeah, I kind of wondered that myself.
No. It doesn't cure his eyesight. And one hypothesis I came up for why there were so many injured ponies, perhaps, is I was just thinking maybe part of the revenue they're making is they're hiring people to beat up people in Ponyville. It would fit their role in the show.
Pony hitmen.
Yeah. I was hypothesizing that because they were just written off as bad guys pretty early on, you know, when there was mystery to it. But alas, that wasn't even revealed.
Hire a brood with a billy club for a cutie mark. I like to hit things.
Yeah, exactly. There's just a thug pony. I mean, we have seen them before in Mysterious Daring Don't. Could have been the same guys.
Yeah.
They're just the go-to idiots you want to hire to beat people up.
Pow. Punch.
And then conveniently disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the song it's trying to be an allusion to Super Saiyan Squeezy 6000, but I felt again it's sort of their cure all tonic is just them trying too hard. Like before they had a machine that actually friggin' worked and that did a really amazing and interesting job that, you know, could wow the audience. With this one they're just sort of, you're ill! There's illnesses about illnesses! So take this tonic! All you've got is their word for it. There's no actual proof, and the only thing you do have is one example, and that's after the song. The song doesn't get you invigorated because you don't see the machine actually work. You don't see them actually proving a good claim. It doesn't actually... You know, they're not really getting you invigorated. They're just sort of scaring you with fear-mongering claims about illnesses, and that... I don't know, here in the UK, I've talked about this with some others, we don't really have that kind of drug culture. Partly, I think, because the NHS, everything's completely free. So, you know, if you have a problem, you just go to your free healthcare. You know, we're more cynical, generally speaking, than what I've heard about in the US, where, you know, we'll doubt someone claiming that, you know, this thing really actually solves the thing in the first place.
I think we're still cynical. We also buy everything.
Yeah.
We're a very capitalist state.
Very.
Capitalism, the entire reason that we are where we are, could be good, could be bad, could be... I don't know.
We wouldn't have Friendship is Magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically, it's a Canadian show.
Yeah, it's just from my perspective, I could not buy one whit their song at all. I was not invigorated. It completely did the opposite of what the point of the song should be. It's to invigorate both the crowd and the audience and to make an illusion. But they wanted so hard to try and make it obvious that these guys were the bad guys that it just kind of contradicts itself.
To me, the song had as much entertainment value as Glass of Water, if anyone remembers that one.
Yeah.
The crowd.
Discord.
Yeah, just a random song thrown in there for to lols.
But not sung by John Delancey. So
To me, it reminded me more of like a rap by John Delancey because it was just talk singing like Kesha or something.
it is during the song when Applejack said, "The Flim Flam Brothers, this should be interesting." Somehow I felt like I was suddenly watching a Batman cartoon for just a sec. The campy Rogues Gallery declaration.
Yeah. Oh, one turn of phrase I was just a little bit confused at. I think it was at the River Time when talking to Granny Smith. And it was just, she used a turn of phrase, it's like, well, it's like ponies have different color, are made of different colors. Do you guys remember what it is more exactly than I do at the moment?
Oh, mostly I remember her leaving the flying to the Pegasi.
Yeah, it was in that context, and someone used a turn of phrase, well, it's like how every pony is a different color. I was like, it's just as likely, it's like, it's as different as every pony's color. I was like, well, all the ponies are different colors. That's status quo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should do the flying should be left to the Pegasi. Oh, well, that's just... just that turn of phrase was confusing.
One thing I wonder going out of this episode is, can Flim and Flam make a return? Because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Applejack's had 2 run-ins with these guys. They've almost taken her family for suckers each time. It would be pretty absurd for them to fall for the trick again. So I wonder if Flim and Flam, if they do ever come back, maybe they should interact with another member of the cast.
I think, again, I don't want Flim and Flam to just be these shallow con men that all they do is just turn up and shill something, get shown up, and then leave. That's not really, it doesn't do anything. It's just such a waste of my friggin' time. And if it happens to someone else, then yeah, it's believable, but it's still a waste of my friggin' time because I know they are depicted as con men, and that's not really bringing anything new to the table. It's not fleshing out their characters because we're not really seeing them in any new light. I want to see the Flim Flam Brothers, if they come back, do something other than just be the con men, the bad guys.
What if they were the con men, but you found out why? That maybe they're doing it for what they think is a just reason.
Like, backstory, or,
Yeah.
They're still taking the same role. I think, the difficulty is that, they still do exactly the same things, only at the end you get a little lampshade or exposition dump that kind of adds a little bit there. And it's a blunt way of storytelling, to really be honest, and sometimes the show loves too much its lampshading, that you tell the audience the new angle that is happening, rather than what happening showing a new angle to the audience. I mean, I don't always like things being told to me because it just feels kind of in-your-face, preachy, blunt about it.
Show don't tell.
To me, what I think would be a good angle is like making the enemy turn out to be the friend, or vice versa. Like somehow have like the apples need some kind of source for their profit, whether it is them giving the apples to, I don't know, some kind of market, and then the market in turn returning their profit, or them needing a resource from somewhere else, and that turning out to be the Flim Flam brothers, and then there's like this conflict of whether or not they should risk their financial stability by removing that said partnership or whatever kind of like co-relation and trying to work off it themselves, or whether they should trust it. Like having an ally turn out to be a previous enemy, that is a dynamic that I think would be a bit interesting.
I mean, the easy way of just sort of doing them I just always sort of imagine seeing them in the background or just interacting with them a little bit, like you're at like Manhattan again or something, and you see the Flim Flam brothers and they're selling something, and this time, shocker, it's not actually a con. Dun dun dun. And you know, even though the characters will incriminate them, it's like you can actually learn a bit about the Flim Flam brothers if they actually sold a genuine product. It says something about them if, you know, they're actually just trying out there to try as many crazy schemes as possible. Though unfortunately this episode has kind of written them into the pure con man, bad guy bucket that this kind of story doesn't really work anymore, which is a real shame. It just sort of, it ruins their characters forever after.
I think it does for an older audience, but I keep coming back to, you know, this is meant for a young audience. Young audiences' stories do tend to have stock characters who fill a specific role. So I too really enjoy diverse characters in unexpected roles, but maybe that's all they're really intended for, and that's, you know, it's less interesting for older audience members. But do they fulfill a good role in the show?
I'm not sure if they necessarily do. Like Flim Flam Brothers, it depends. Like, I think actually though, BronyMaster did bring up a good point. It's sort of at least, you know, if they're needed by someone, or they can provide services, then there is something to be said about having to interact with them, going up to the bad guy, and, you know, the bad guy who you're always fighting and asking for help from one of his super weapons. You know, there's something interesting about that relationship. I don't necessarily care at all about them just walking in and doing a con, being shown up and then leaving again. It doesn't really add anything to the characters or the show, because, I don't know, they don't really have much repetition value. If they're going to be caught out over and over and over again, it's just sort of, oh look, it's the Flim Flam brothers, they're the bad guys, go away, and they're like, okay, and they leave.
Yeah. Although I am glad they weren't redeemed this episode. That, you know, after Trixie and Discord, I think everyone felt a genuine fear that all the previous antagonists would come in and say, oh, I've been wrong, I've done this horrible thing. Part of me is like, good to know that there's still some characters that won't get on the friendship train right away.
Well, that redemption subject, it's shaky at best, because, I mean, Trixie's redemption, a lot of people reacted positively to that, just because they liked Trixie, despite Hasbro's and DHX's best attempts to make her a despisable character. Discord, on the other hand, his redemption with observation from Princess Twilight Sparkle and Three's a Crowd, it did nothing, because we've shown that he is still the same character, just restricted under some circumstances. He doesn't act differently at all. Like, he still is mean-hearted. What they should have, like, gone for was more of just, like, the local pest, but, like, still a friend, like, for example, a class clown type guy.
I mean, I do find it interesting satire. Three's a Crowd could be taken as an interesting satire of the original redemption with Fluttershy and Keep Calm and Flutter On. Like, it's a really troubling kind of show that sort of thinks that if you tell someone they're your friend, now they are redeemed by that prospect. It's just so kind of... It's just sort of big-headed in a way. You know, I just walk up to a random guy in the street and say, I'm your friend. I'm nice to you, so you should be nice to me. You know, that's not how friendship really works. It's not kind of... You shouldn't hold a person to gunpoint. That's actually, you know, that's quite an abusive relationship. And I like how Discord kind of abuses them back. It's an interesting satire of Fluttershy's kind of holding friendship at ransom nonsense. Though he answers it by more nonsense. It's sort of, I do like, at least in that respect, it made a bit of fun of their own horrible, preachy friendshipedness. But yeah, the show hasn't done any really good redemptions.
I could see Flim and Flam coming back to help the ponies con a greater danger. That maybe they need to resort to a little sleight of hoof to accomplish a goal, and they need experts.
Yeah, they get the experts of Flim and Flam, the people who can literally sell the all-in-one tonic by just singing a song. Okay, guys, what we've recognized is everyone in this universe is really, 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 really stupid. What you gotta do is just sing or just distract them with shiny objects. Ooh, says Pinkie Pie. Yeah, like that. And, yeah, you've won, basically. Just show Discord the shiny object and then stab him through the back of the head. You see, you don't need to do all this element of harmony nonsense. Just show him a bauble.
I got you $1. Oh, you're gonna have to be quicker than that.
But this villain's a main character in the show. He's not as dumb as the background ponies. Oh, well, we're out of ideas then.
Except, like, the villains are, I don't know, well... Discord.
Chrysalis got hit with the stupid stick at the end.
Kinda, and she just got overconfident, I would say.
I'd go so far as to say her IQ just dropped like 10 points right in that instant.
Or what instance?
Well, we've
exactly?
pretty much won. I'm just gonna sit here idle for a little bit. Wait, what what's happening?
Yeah.
I'll dismiss all my guards and not look at them. And even though I know what they're
charging
doing.
up, should I interfere with? I'm just gonna sit back here. Oh crap!
Let's face it, the IQs in this show can fluctuate, and I guess at some point sometimes you accept it. It's just like, okay, sure, we all have our goofy moments, and sometimes, no, you're asking too much of me as an audience member.
What am I saying? Yay!
Yeah, it's just sort of whilst people have their goofy moments, I really lack that sense of consistency. That someone always comes across as this type of person. That, you know, even if they haven't thought through it, they're still acting like in that way. You know, so a businessman may make good decisions and bad decisions, ones that are smart or not. But he always generally will act like a businessman. And even at his dumbest moments. The show often, though, has, you know, Rarity act as this dependable, grounded pony, and then suddenly we have some pony to look over you. It's like multiple personality disorder. It's not the same person.
What about Applejack's key? A bit.
I honestly think that it could have been better. Maybe an empty bottle or something. I don't know, something more memorable than that. Because I mean, she could just easily go and
I
spend it like.
Comics coming in where Applejack spends the bit, and then when the box comes up, wait, Applejack, where's your key?
I spent it.
I might have spent it.
Well, it's funny because they don't know these are the keys yet. They've got the keys that they don't know, and in a weird way, they haven't. In a sense, they have earned, and yet they haven't sought out the keys.
Here's a question also just about knowledge. Like, what do they feel when their eyes go all rainbowy? And what do other people think when they see their eyes go all rainbowy? They're just like, my eyes, whatever.
I imagine some people just like, oh my gosh, they're rainbows.
It's the Antichrist.
The very shiny Antichrist.
I would be.
Or, you know, going with the
homosexual
crowd. The whole crowd looks, ooh, shiny. You have everyone's attention for a few seconds.
Shiny sparkle. I'm back.
Yeah. I think
Silver still wasn't fleshed out, but maybe his glasses would have been a better memento.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Something more memorable than a coin. Because, like, really...
Applejack, you
coin.
show me the error in my ways. Here's my lungs. Ugh.
Here's one bit. Don't worry, I'll replace it.
Oh yeah, that was a
Just
funny
Hey,
conditional.
It might be
Here you go,
later.
buy yourself a gumball. What if he didn't give it to her? Like he gave that bit to the other person. What would happen then? Like, because that's sort of an interesting dynamic. Is it really the key itself, or is it the symbolism behind whatever object they decide to give, or is it the actual person?
It's the key
opponent? Like,
itself. You just shove a coin in the slot, it'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it isn't like if Applejack does indeed like can't find the key or something, then you know it's going to do an Equestria Girls moment, just sort of it was inside you all along.
All along.
Deus Ex. I don't know.
Deus Ex Machina.
I just like to go to the box say,
Crazy.
to use your rainbow powers, please insert another 25 bits.
Oh, good thing I got this from a pony conveniently. I imagine maybe it could be trials. Like they have to go through this giant, elaborate game show, and they end up using the bits and the chicken and all of the things that they've gotten. Just conveniently. They're useful.
The game show would be sort of on the intellectual level of the main six, so it's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like, Fluttershy, your turn. And in front of her, there's this big, huge square slab with giant holes cut into them in the shape of a circle, a rubber chicken, and so on. And it's like,
Piggy,
insert your
where
key
does it
into
go?
it. And she's like, oh, okay.
And then like you got this spool of thread. Like, what if she uses it? Guys, I'm trying to get my dress in here. It almost fits. Like, just a little more.
Rarity, you have to make a dress. But what will I even use?
She uses the rubber chicken as a hat.
There you go. Rubber chicken suit. I can see Pinky in that.
Yeah, one other idea I had was just simply that Granny Smith it's like she's so ridiculously energetic this episode. Maybe it's just Pinkie Pie in a Granny Smith costume.
Maybe they are related.
Maybe it was just that.
So
like,
Pinky will act like Granny Smith when she's older?
Maybe. I thought it might have been a funny joke if like Granny Smith was actually not that old and that she just spent so much time in the water and she was just so angry at things that she just turned all wrinkly.
But then what about her hair?
Well, all the
her
color
mane was-
flushed out. You know, like if you're in like I mean, at least for people without that much melanin in their skin, if you're in the water for a long amount of time, like my fingers go
Wait,
really,
actually,
really white.
Young Granny
Well,
had white hair, right?
Her mane was white when she was younger, so I mean that's just her denotable mane color.
I thought she was blonde. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do have those blondes that like look freakish. That like their hair looks freakishly white, and it could have been like sun bleach or something. Because like I mean, in the winter I have brown hair, but like in the winter my hair looks black, and in the summer my hair looks dirty blonde, just because of how much light it's getting. So that just could be something, I don't know.
Yeah. I think
And
there
now we're all...
Yeah.
So is that all our thoughts on the episode?
Yeah,
I think
kind of
we'll
tapped for ideas. Now I'm just wondering what Twilight will... I kind of guess what her key already is, but, you know...
Another
last
pair of
one.
wings.
I would like her
Oh,
key to
Lord.
be Spike. Just she shoves
No, her
Spike
key
into
is
the key.
friendship.
Yeah.
If Spike
I
were
don't
the
know what would-
key, at least he'd do something.
Yes, you do something.
Spike, get in the keyhole. Get in the keyhole.
Spike turned into a
Yours,
key.
Spike.
Hey, Spike, let me see your tail. It works. think it's broken and I can't get the tail out. It worked.
Yeah, I didn't explain too much, but I'll just quickly go over. The last thing I wanted to talk about perhaps was just Granny Smith's depiction in this, where like, yeah, she arbitrarily brings up a psychological issue with going in water, and it's resolved, and then she's just super hyper energetic the whole episode, like, it's kind of Mitch just described it as a bit insulting to like old people in the way like that. Oh, if you just think you're better, then you'll be as lively as Granny Smith. Like the only thing holding her back was psychological issues, because that's totally what old people are, right? They're exactly the same as normal people, just with more issues because of how old they are.
Yeah, they believe that the world is a horrible place because their lives.
But at the same time, Applejack was genuinely afraid that Granny would kill herself jumping off that high tower, so...
Yes,
No,
get
they're-
into a
Yeah, they're-
half-inch pie.
into a tin.
Yeah, it's if
How do
you
you
replace
expect to
anyone,
survive that?
if you replace it, like I think in a Socratic exercise, you just say Granny Smith is middle-aged, normal-aged. It would still work. The episode is exactly the same for the most part. She just, a few years ago, did diving and has a problem, and now she's really energetic, and then she tries something kamikaze, and Applejack has to save her. Using a ridiculous rope
Wah,
sling.
wah.
And again, not snapping her in two.
Yes, not ripping off her leg.
They're using Batman logic.
Granny, I saved half of you.
Yeah. Why was the tower like? If no one's ever attempted that high, why is the tower built to that high? And if it's built to that high, why is the plank not facing out to the water? Like, where the hell did this tower come from?
Why
Well,
dive
they just kind of put it on the side after Granny failed, and they're like, yeah, we'll just keep that there for a little while.
Originally, like,
If it's the height and not what you're diving into, why not just make the board longer and stick it out into the pool? Because I mean, you have a pool.
yeah, why do they need
You're
such
not you're not gonna jump into this cup right here. Like,
Yeah,
I made it.
Why are they doing such a small cup? I mean, the achievement is the height, not the depth of water. Although when you're a certain height, it's just like smacking concrete. But
It's a cartoon. We got ponies. You got it. They're safe.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because
Oh,
the
I'll
height-
do the highest thing with the least water because I just don't like water or something.
I mean, in our here, the highest high dive is only 33 feet, or 10 meters for European people. So that's like, so Granny Smith was doing double what is legally allowed here.
Yeah.
So she was probably straight up gotten a spinal injury whether she was diving into a pool or not, because they said 6 stories and that's like 60 feet.
Did you look that up, or did you know it before the episode?
Well, I know that 3 stories is 30 feet. I mean, it's just sort of like common knowledge. Like
No, I mean the legal limit, though.
Oh yeah, I did look that up because I did a collab with someone and like
Storm analysis.
yeah, and we were gonna make that a point, but then we just sort of skipped over it. So like I looked that up because I was curious, so now I just know it.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay, can I hire you for trivia night? I'm sure that's going to come up at some point.
Well, it's just a little bit of
Oh,
research.
I know a lot more. Cashews come from a fruit.
just have my computer open at a bar, and trivia night comes up. Yeah, listen to the guy on the computer. He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll tell him to Google it if he doesn't know.
That's cheating. As is having
No.
a computer open.
One question I just also I wasn't totally sure about, like, Apple Bloom is always talking about being a high diver and stuff, and like they're all going, yeah, let's be a high diver, and then suddenly they do synchronized swimming. Where did that come from? I don't really
know.
remember.
It was the only competition around Ponyville.
I mean,
Like, a guy jumps from the high
what?
diving board, and, like, the judges mark him, don't they? And then it's like, okay, the implication is they're up, and they're going to jump from the board and get marked. And then they do a synchronized swimming, and they get marked. So it's like, I'm just imagining the judges are sitting there, and then people do stuff with the water, and they mark them. They don't care what competition it is. They just throw random
Well,
scores.
I would question the judge's legitimacy, because Lyra.
Yeah, Lyra's kind of a dumb moment in
Oh
that.
yes, everyone loves the upside down card.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
First time she's really mean to the guy who did the jump, like 3 out of 10, and then yeah, she holds up a 10 and it's upside down. I just kind of imagine like someone just runs into the pool and then just splashes about having fun, and they don't recognize it's a competition, and when they get out, they just get 10, 10, 10. It's like, what? Oh, okay, I was just having fun.
Yay!
Although I did actually like that the family finally said to Apple Bloom, "No, you're not trying that for your cutie mark or whatever." It's like, my God, they actually are exercising some safety. They break their own word later, but at least they said no to her.
Yeah, I guess.
Has the turtle gone into his shell?
I guess.
No, I'm here.
So yeah, I think we have our final thoughts on the episode, guys.
I mean, it landed in my good books. Not memorable, but landed in my good books.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to rank this with the other key episodes, I'd put it in the middle, kind of waffling between it and It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's. To me, Rainbow Falls is still the weakest entry in this little mini arc, but this one I still think was a solid episode. Not really stand out, but enjoyable.
Turtle.
There you are, Tut.
Nice. Oh, I should have ended with that.
Visual puns.
Yeah.
Approved.
I think I still go with my starting feelings on the episode. That it was really underwhelming. I was just bored and patronized by the majority of its length because the angles it takes are silly and stupid and one-dimensional. And it's not really putting the writer, Josh Haber, in my good books. People often describe him as being a safe writer, and to some degree I would have to agree that he does a Scooby-Doo ripoff, he does a Love Triangle ripoff, and now he does a whole kind of cure-all tonic ripoff. Like, this guy can't write an original idea to save his frickin' life, and he always is taking the most derivative, Hollywood-esque kind of safe options every single time, and that's like he's in the running now for worst writer along with Dave Polsky for me in my books. I mean, like, whilst Polsky might have a stilted and awkward way of writing, this guy is just downright derivative for this show, and he's taking all the laziest kid TV tropes and throwing them at us in the laziest manner possible. And this show deserves better, because this show was appreciable for a larger audience because it didn't take the lazy option. And Josh Haber does that once again. And that was Crepuscularity. Sorry? Yeah.
Well, I don't think Quill said his final thoughts yet, did he?
Wow, was that unmemorable?
He did. It's just I'm too long-winded.
Yeah,
sorry.
I've been arguing with my brother off on the side because like he
We've all said BronyMaster. Okay, that was the Crepuscular Bronies Discuss, episode number 66, Leap of Faith. I hope you all guys all enjoyed, and those in the audience stick around for the aftermath.
Hey guys, don't forget to come back.
See you guys.
Nos vemos.
Oops.